Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever Two Button Crew podcast. This is Scott.
This is Simeon.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Glen.
Alright, we've got most of the band together today for our debut podcast, and we're going to be discussing the Breath of the Wild. So, I'm not sure at which point we'll get into spoilers, but we will warn you. The story is towards the end, so don't worry about that if you haven't beaten the game yet.
Though there may be gameplay spoilers.
Gameplay spoilers, definitely. But what is kind of cool about Zelda is that most of the gameplay options are available from the very beginning. So, yeah. So this is our first show together, TBC's first podcast. How's everybody doing today?
Doing well.
Simeon, we just shot an amazing video.
Yes, we did. I'm having a fantastic day today.
Good.
Just got everything taken off of my face.
Yes. And listeners, you may have noticed there was no advertisement on this podcast before we started. This will be an ad-free show, and it is supported by Patreon. So if you would like to have more TBC podcasts, head on over to patreon.com/2buttoncrew. TWO, button crew. All right. Are we ready to get into this?
We are ready.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
All right. Glenn, you had an interesting question about favorite Zelda games.
Yeah, so I thought just as a baseline for this discussion, it would be really good to establish what, sort of our biases and, just what is our favorite Zelda games prior to playing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So, should I go first or?
Please.
My favorite Zelda game before Breath of the Wild came out was or is or however, I don't want to spoil my opinion on it, so don't take this any of the phrasing as that things have changed or haven't changed. But
all right.
A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. I thought that game was just very, very tightly designed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know it was made to have a lot of nostalgia towards A Link to the Past. Did you also really like that game?
A Link to the Past, I think I once rented the Game Boy Advance version from a Blockbuster. Remember those?
Okay.
Yeah, the old
and I didn't
buildings.
like it that much, but I got it on the Virtual Console because, it is a classic, and I try to be familiar with the classics. In sort of a snobbish connoisseur kind of way, I guess. And so I liked it a lot better my second time around when I was older and more used to being challenged by, 90s difficulty.
Yeah. Okay. And A Link Between Worlds had the flattening mechanic and then also a bit more
and that was actually
open.
really well implemented.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they made the game very puzzle heavy, which was cool.
Though, bear in mind, I wouldn't say that that Link to the Past was my favorite before playing Link Between Worlds. My fondness of that game is not the reason why I love A Link Between Worlds.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a good enough game. It stands on its own for all of its own merits.
Quite well.
Ryan, what do you say?
Mine would be Link's Awakening. I tend to gravitate towards the untraditional Zelda titles, and I really, really like that one. That one and Majora's Mask are both far up there for me.
Sounds like someone else I know.
I guess that would be me, yeah. Definitely for 3D, it was Majora's Mask, and for 2D, it would be actually Link to the Past. I really liked... what was the one that Ryan said? I can't remember.
Link's Awakening?
Link's Awakening. I did like Link's Awakening. It was a lot of fun. But I just liked all of the items and intricacies and how A Link to the Past fit together, the colors and everything. But yeah, Majora's Mask is was definitely at least, once again, I don't want to do spoilers. My favorite before this. The characters were memorable. The setting was memorable. Just exactly what's going on, working through that was great. And I even liked the time mechanic that I thought I was going to loathe. So
I think it's much improved in the 3DS version, though. I never really played the original, but in the 3DS, they changed it so you could warp to any point in time of the day.
Oh,
Where
really?
before you had to go to the start of the day every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you wanted to be like 2 p.m., you'd have to actually like wait until 2 p.m.
Right.
instead of just warping straight there. So
That's cool.
Yep.
I'm still tempted to pick up Majora's Mask 3D, even though the Switch is out, and it's hard to go back and play on a smaller, lower resolution screen.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed Ocarina of Time 3D. Let's get to my favorite, though. My favorite Zelda game before Breath of the Wild is one that had very good aiming controls, very good sense of progression and reward. It was even a good deal. Any guesses, anyone?
Don't you dare say Skyward Sword. I will leave this podcast.
Crossbow training.
Link's crossbow training. You got it.
Yeah.
Only $20, and it came with the zapper. I mean, what more could be better? I loved like blowing up those pumpkins' heads and then exploding them.
All right, Scott wins.
Had the best final boss ever.
But if we're only considering mainline ones, then I also really like Twilight Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I enjoyed that for its darker tone, the more adult Link, and just the whole feel of the game.
And the items.
And all that. Items, yes. Extremely good weapons and traversal items and all that. The spinner, so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So fun, but underutilized.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild could have a spinner DLC, $15.
For just the spinner. And you know people would buy that. They'd be like, yes.
Fidget spinner DLC.
Fidget. Oh no, Simeon.
Man,
I had to.
Man.
I'm with 5th and 6th graders all day long. I have to
Oh no.
throw that.
I would ban those so fast.
This is supposed to be a conversational, timeless podcast, and there you go. You just dated it.
And you just, made me feel dated because I know it's a thing, but I have kind of not clicked on any videos about it or anything. So I don't know what these things are. I just know what they look like.
They just spin around. That's all you need to know.
Oh, so it's a top.
Oh, no, they spin around in your fingers. You hold them in your hand and you just flick them and
it's
they spin around.
like a gyroscope.
So
Anyway, no.
All right, so we will discuss at the end of this episode after we've gone over some of the merits and demerits, unmerits of
Flaws.
Breath of the Wild. Yes, flaws. And then we'll talk about what the current best Zelda ever is. So let's get into this newest game. Did everyone play it on Switch?
Yes.
Yes,
I
indeed.
played it on Switch, yes.
Okay. All right, cool. So this game had very unique gameplay and presentation as well. One thing that was pretty hard to get the hang of at first were the controls. I remember hearing that from people who went to E3 as well. They were like, I'm always accidentally throwing my weapon and stuff like that. But man, there's a lot of buttons to use in this game, huh?
Even by the end of the game, I was still making mistakes. Honestly, I think the controls are, from a gameplay, talking about gameplay, I think it's one of the things I would definitely recommend Nintendo try to improve upon in the next game. Because, there's just little things. And it's mostly muscle memory. If I hadn't played a Zelda game before this, I'm sure I would have gotten used to it pretty quickly. But,
I agree with that
like in combat. In combat, I try to do a backflip or something to avoid getting hit because, you don't want to get hit. And so I would press the A button, like the action context-sensitive button that you use in most Zelda games, and Link would put away his sword and shield and get hit like a dope.
Can't we just have peace?
Hug me, bro.
I mean, can you actually think of something that they could do to simplify the controls, though? Because there's just so many actions. Like, everything was assigned to something.
I don't know. I think giving throwing its own button maybe... I get that it's there for the weapon throwing, but I think that's the only reason it's there.
Uh-huh.
Because if, like throwing bombs, I found incredibly annoying because you'd have to, I'm used to just tapping forward and pressing A.
Yeah,
for
that's
tab A.
a big departure.
Yep.
They were breaking the conventions after all.
If they had switched to throw and jump, I think that would have been an improvement.
I gotcha. Simeon,
Yeah,
you
put
loved
jump
throwing stuff, though. Talk about that.
Oh yeah. So Scott would make fun of me because you can go into the menu and drop a weapon or whatever, but I would never just drop a weapon if I could. And I mean, this leads into user interface problems, which I mean we can talk about that now. Is that it's a pain to drop weapons, and so I just throw them. I don't need a weapon. I just throw it, and Scott would just like laugh every single time because it's like so. You're supposed to drop the weapon, but it's just like, why do that? Just chuck it.
That makes, you know what? I didn't even think about that. That
Every
makes a lot of
time.
sense.
Simeon would
Every time from the
avoid
start.
going into the menu because he would just use the quick menus and then have it equipped and throw it. And it just looked really funny to me, like I don't need this old thing anymore, and chuck it. But yeah,
Honestly,
there's more.
that's my preferred way of doing it because
Yeah.
there's just something cathartic about it. It's just
True.
like, get out of here. It's just
Rusty sword, bye.
Yep.
The inventory screens I felt were pretty good, but as far as like managing your actual inventory when you're getting something new, that needs to be improved.
Yes.
And the biggest pain is when you fight your way to a chest and you solve whatever puzzle, you open it up, and then you don't know what's inside. So any one of your slots could be full. Like say it's a shield and your shields are full, then you put it back in, you close the chest, you have to go into the menu, drop a shield and pick it back up. I don't know how this game made it through the thousands and thousands of hours that they did of quality assurance testing without someone thinking that should prompt you to swap it if you want it.
For real.
Right, like press a different button to like open up the menu to swap it out with something.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that would have been a good addition.
It's crazy. And then the other kind of UI quirk that I found is like I could never really remember what was in the plus menu and what was in the minus menu.
Yeah, I had trouble with that too.
So I thought maybe it should all be one menu that's connected, or some different visual cues to help me learn the difference, because I beat the whole game and still sometimes had to switch back and forth between menus.
Yep, I would do that every once in a while too.
I would say even just like the regular menus, I had some difficulty with it because like the L and R buttons do different things than the R stick, the right stick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'd sometimes like hit R to like page through the categories in my inventory,
Yes,
and
I've
instead
done
take
that so
me
many
to
times.
like the options screen.
Yeah.
So, and when your inventory gets big and it gets kind of unwieldy.
Yeah, the materials section. I would want to skip past it, and yet I had to go through like 5 pages of things to go from, key items or whatever I was going to through to like the weapons or whatever. Going through the materials was such a big pain that I just like, I'll press R to skip this, and then nope. And I did that so many times.
They should have had the miscellaneous at the end.
Yep.
It could have mitigated a little bit of this, enabling the touchscreen for when you're in handheld mode.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. I think that would have been utilizing technology that they had on both systems.
Yeah, but then I'd have to like take my Switch out of the dock every time I wanted to navigate my menu. That would be a different kind of annoying.
That's also true.
Well, no, not if you had the option. You could, if it was docked, then you just use your control stick like normal. But if you're playing handheld, then you can use the touchscreen. But
Oh yeah, I think I've actually played my Switch handheld once.
Oh, what?
I'm boring. I don't go places.
See, I played it about half and half. No, that's a lie. I did play it mostly handheld, but if I had my druthers and the Switch was my own as opposed to borrowing Scott's, I would play with it docked all the time because I'm not a mobile gamer. I'm just not.
Wow, I played 80% handheld.
Okay, quick question: was that just for the frame rate, or?
No, I didn't really take that into consideration. It's just that when I'm home, I need to be like with my wife or working on TBC stuff. So I take the Switch for like my breaks at work and when I'm maybe waiting in line for something or something like that.
Okay.
Or even like just before falling asleep. So I get a lot more handheld gaming time. So I'm loving the Switch for that reason. And unfortunately, I think that we started out this discussion with, I'd say, probably most of the negatives for this game, but I do really
I have
love...
more negatives.
Oh, great. Well, I do really love this game. I think that it's pretty close to perfect, and the flaws that it does have are updatable,
Yeah.
in my
I
opinion.
agree.
I was gonna say when one of the main gripes is the menus, you're getting down to the
Right.
Yeah, that's
nitty
true.
gritty.
Yeah.
But you spend so much time in the menus. I mean, that's like a 20% of the game. At least it was like 20% of my game. You know, you get hit, gotta eat something.
Yeah.
I never ate anything. I just died and started over again.
Yeah, I tried to fix Simeon from his bad habits. So
I
this
never
was
wasted anything.
the very first open world Zelda, and I loved it. I think that
Yes.
I can't believe how Nintendo just took their first step into a genre and nailed it. When so many other AAA developers are trying and failing sometimes and succeeding other times, it's like Nintendo just kind of taught everybody a lesson. So,
Yep.
man, the 5 years that this game was in development really show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, that's what Nintendo does. They nailed the 3D platformer for the N64, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Splatoon for third person. Well, I don't know. I guess Star Fox Assault, you could make an argument. It was developed by Namco, published by Nintendo. You could make an argument for that.
Mm-hmm.
I've played quite a few open world games, and I would say the climbing is like a complete game changer because most of the time you have to like, oh, well, I can't get up here, so I have to walk around, find this path, take that all the way up. It winds all the way around. This one, you're like, oh, I want to go up there. I'm just going to climb straight up.
Yep.
Yeah, and that incentivized you to
Go
get
everywhere.
more stamina.
Yeah.
Get more stamina so that you could discover more things.
Yep. I stopped getting hearts at one point because I was like, I'm just going to max out my stamina and then I can go everywhere that I want to go.
Simeon, stamina or hearts?
Oh, stamina easily. I was completely depressed when I had to change in my stamina for hearts just to get the Master Sword.
Whoa! Spoilers.
What? That the Master Sword is in this game? It's in the logo.
Okay.
I think talking. Yeah, Master Sword's fine. We're good.
Okay. Whew. Man, that was close. The world is huge. What was it? 14 times bigger than Twilight Princess? I believe that was the statistic.
And has way more stuff in it, too.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that DLC update that shows you everywhere that you've been so far in the game so that I can go to the places that I haven't been to yet.
Yes. So, did you guys feel like the world was appropriately and proportionally populated, or did it feel sparse in sections to you guys?
I think it definitely felt sparse in sections, but they certainly did a very good job with just considering how big the world is, and I think they used their space pretty well.
Yeah.
There were a few times where I'd go, oh, I wonder what's on that mountain. I get up there and there's nothing.
Yeah.
But there might have been 5 Koroks that you didn't find there.
Well, you know, sometimes I get to a place and it's like, okay, there's at least going to be a Korok here. I didn't even find a Korok.
I did that. I think that it was probably appropriately populated for the setting, even just talking about NPCs. The problem was I had no desire whatsoever to talk to any of the NPCs. I was not invested in anything. Yep. I was a little bit invested in the story, but it was all gameplay for me. For me, it was exploring and beating stuff up and beating the shrines and figuring out puzzles. To me, that was the attraction, the gameplay, as opposed to like actually figuring out how these people fit in this world. Like I had like almost no interest in that.
Yeah, a lot of the NPCs weren't that you know, Zelda's known for having pretty colorful NPCs.
Yeah.
And this game really did not deliver on that front.
I agree.
because it's basically just the main characters and maybe a few weirdos you meet
So you did talk
shrine
to a lot of
quests.
them, Glenn?
Huh? Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in this game. I did all the shrines and everything, so... I mean, I haven't gotten all the Korok seeds, because that's just not worth anyone's time.
Okay, well, since you brought it up, let's talk about hour counts real quick. I think I'm at about 50, maybe 45, somewhere in there.
I can't remember where I'm at, but I'm probably in a similar boat as far as shrines you're talking. Yeah.
Just hours, actually.
Oh, hours. No, I don't even remember.
I think last time I looked, you were pretty close to me, Simeon.
Okay.
I think I'm like 80 or 90.
Nice.
I have no clue how many hours I put into the game, because the
You
Switch
don't wanna
doesn't
look, do
keep
you?
records on that. Well, I'd have to go up and go into my living room and get the Switch out of the dock, and then it's too much work.
I mean, are you scared of what you would see?
Um,
Like 12%
honestly,
of your life has been used.
the thing is, I'm very objective driven, so basically most of my exploration was looking for shrines or cool stuff.
Hmm.
So I don't like just wander around and sit down and look at the sunset. It's unless the sunset is a part of a quest, which spoilers. Sometimes they do stuff
That
like
one,
that.
that one was the worst. That was the worst.
No,
quest.
the worst one was the one with the blood moon, where you have to like
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm
dance
talking
naked
about.
under the blood moon or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because the blood moon is random.
Mm-hmm.
So it seriously took me like 2.5 hours to get that, and over like 2 days because I couldn't even do it in one sitting. But
You sure the blood moon is random?
I mean, it's supposed to happen every so many days, but I think when you skip, it changes it a little bit. And the problem is that was literally the last shrine that I needed. So I wasn't just gonna like sit there and wait for the blood moon or whatever. I just wanted to get that shrine done so I could have them all completed.
Wow, that's awesome. I really liked the experience of finding the towers and climbing them, and then just putting a bunch of points on the map and gliding
Yeah.
down to find different shrines and stuff.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I love the way the towers were implemented, because each one is kind of its own puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I get, it's not just, oh, there's a big tower I have to climb. It's like, how do I even get to the tower so that I can climb it? That was really, really clever, I thought.
Like the Citadel and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I like that the very first tower is like, oh, okay, here's a tower, I just climb up, whatever. Yeah. And then the other ones each have their own unique twist on it. So.
Mhm.
All right, a little more gameplay spoilers right here. I wanted to talk about the favorite shrines or shrine quests, like getting to them, or maybe even your favorite ones on the inside. But my favorite shrine memory right now is this quest that I got that had to do with this, like, well, I forget the name, but the Snowy Peaks area. And I had to climb to a certain peak, and from that peak I could see what looked like the outline of an eagle. And it was just made like in the snow. And then I had to glide off of this high point towards the eagle. And then, I mean, it was like multiple mountains that made up the shape of the eagle, and the shape kind of moved as I glided closer towards it. And then I got like past the peak of one of the mountains that made up the eagle, and I could see into the eagle's belly, and there was a shrine there. And the quest was like some riddle about like you'll find something important like swallowed by the eagle or something like that. So I just thought that was an amazing blend of a side quest with world building. Like they had to consider how everything in that area looked from a certain angle and everything. It was just very well put together.
A lot of my favorite shrines were given by Cass, the accordion man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He always had some sort of like, he always gave you the riddle, and then you had like a puzzle you had to figure out before you even got into the shrine, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Favorite shrines, anybody else?
Wow.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to bring it up eventually, but I haven't completed it yet, but with my experience on it, I really love doing Eventide.
Yep.
That one's a blast. There's
Man.
so much. so many different shrines have their own unique puzzles, but I just found Eventide to be the most unique that I ran across, at least.
Oh, definitely.
Glenn, I sense frustration emanating from you about
Eventide. That one, I personally found that kind of just very stressful.
Yes.
And from a gameplay design, it's certainly it's a very clever challenge. I don't know. I think part of my issue is that the one, like, you have to get a sphere into a platform on it's like a coral outcropping or something, just a rock, and I forgot that I had Cryonis, so I didn't realize.
Oh my goodness!
Well, and this is okay. And when we get to the items and all that, I'll talk more about this. But that was a running theme, is that I kept forgetting I had Cryonis.
Yeah.
Because it was not very well. I don't feel like they did a great job of training you to use it. Which
I see. Yeah, it had more uses than it introduced you at first.
Well, you'd be like, oh, here's a door. I don't have a key, so I guess I'll move along. But there's water under the door. So
yes.
Totally...
Yeah.
Like a drop of water. Being like, cryosis me.
Yep.
Yeah. Simeon.
Yes.
And Glenn and Ryan. I don't think Eventide would have been so bad if it didn't boot you off the island when you died.
Yes.
Yep.
That was
does that happen?
An annoying thing. Oh, yeah. If you die, you have to start all. Not only do you have to start over, but like if you glided to the island, you start back like where you glided from.
Yeah, and I didn't even have enough stamina to glide to the island, so I cryosised from ice block to ice block like 3 times as I died each attempt. Then I won. So
I think Eventide is probably a nightmare too if you accidentally make your way there without enough hearts. I feel like you have to have a certain amount of hearts to make it fun.
Goodness.
Otherwise, it's just going to be frustrating.
Okay, so I have a question. Do you get your stuff back if you leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, you have to beat it first.
Oh, no, you have to beat it before he gives you your stuff back, so if you die, you're stuck without any of your gear?
Oh, no.
No, then you get it back.
Oh, okay.
So you could be like, oh, well, I died, so I'm just going to come back when I have more hearts or something. But if you start it and you don't die and you leave, then you don't have your stuff yet.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was kind of ticked off.
I liked the generous amount of shrines in this game, and it made up for a lack of quantity in dungeons by taking those kind of puzzle rooms and areas and spreading them out all over the map. So I kind of liked how that balanced it out. I mean,
I don't know. I would argue that little mini dungeons like that have always been a part of Zelda. So for me, it didn't really quite make up for the lack of dungeons.
I think it made up for it for me a little bit, because one of the things that I love about the dungeons is the puzzles. I think that's one of the main reasons they're there. And with doing the shrines, you can have such a variety in the puzzles. The one downside is the bigger puzzles, which, I mean, were saved to the dungeons and in this game. And the dungeons, I think, were not really a highlight for me. Like, I thought they were going to be these grandiose, grand things, but I kind of ended up being disappointed each time I, finished one, as, that could have been a little bit better, or, they all kind of seemed the same to a little bit. None of them really, stuck out to me.
I think it's because they all had the same setting. Normally you're used to the theme dungeons, but every single one it's like, oh, same generic ancient inside. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, that wore on me after a while. It's the same thing every time. I kind of wish, and it would have been really good world building at the same time, is if you had all of this ancient technology, and it's all ancient technology, but each one looks different depending on the region it was, set in. And it's just even though they had this super advanced ancient technology and they could make it all look the same, it doesn't look all the same because, there's different cultures and stuff that were contributing to this. I mean, just look at
Lord of the Rings, where everything is set in the same time frame and it's medieval and all that. But if you go to like Rohan, for example, then everyone's got horse heads in the palm of their swords and stuff like that. The settings have their own unique character, which, yeah, these dungeons, they all matched and the shrines all matched.
I was thinking more like just look at cities in, say, Europe, cities in America, and cities in Asia. They're all made with the same modern technology, and it's industrialized, so you can mass produce stuff. But they have different. They just look different because the cultures have different senses of aesthetics and different ways of
And I mean, the races in the places are completely different. Like when you go to like the major cities, so you'd think that the dungeons could be
Well,
easily.
I guess in universe, technically, all the stuff was done by the Sheikah, but even then.
Yeah, I mean they did it in Skyward Sword. Like each one of the temples had a very distinct, cultural origin. You could tell, and so they are capable of doing it. Like you said, I guess it kind of makes sense that it was all made by the Sheikah, but even so, like they were built for use with the four tribes, and so it could have been more distinctive than it was.
I have a solution for this. Breath of the Wild, Happy Home Designer.
With its own set of amiibo cards?
Yes!
Yeah, I don't think that this is necessarily a setup that Nintendo or their fans are eager to return to.
No.
I think I could see another open world game with, say, 12 dungeons, and that would do.
Yeah, well, we already got it. It's called A Link Between Worlds.
That's true. All right, we ready to move on?
Well, I don't think we actually talked a whole lot about the dungeons themselves.
I liked how each one used the spinning mechanic differently.
Yeah, like the beasts each had their own.
Yeah, that was cool. That I really liked. I personally wish that the dungeons were just bigger.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you all, but for me, especially since I got into Zelda with like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, where the dungeons can be massive. A dungeon to me was always something that you kind of clear a large chunk of your afternoon to do, like on the weekend or whatever.
Gotcha.
And it's just this big thing that big monolithic kind of thing that you go in and you clear it, and you don't go back to it. You very rarely, except in Skyward Sword's case. You don't have to go back to them, so you kind of want this big thing that you can have all the fun you can in the first time around.
I think a lot of the problem was they were kind of confined to the certain beasts that they had, so they could only make it as large as, like, in fiction.
It was really cool that you got to have dungeons that were giant robots, Megazords, Zords. You got to find Zords.
But they didn't combine to fight Ganon, which would have been really cool.
And oh my gosh, the champions are Power Rangers.
Yes, they are.
Pretty much, yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about Legend of Zelda.
Scott, you had no childhood.
Saban's the Legend of Zelda.
I was into Power Rangers. I just don't know what connection is being made.
Zeldords.
I see.
That the divine beasts are like Megazords.
Yeah.
And they could all combine to... They should have Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, so... Well, a lot of bit of spoiler. So prepare, 3, 2, 1. They could all combine to fight the giant Ganon at the end, like hit him with something. I don't know.
That's funny. That's true. All right, I got 3 quick points about dungeons. So 1, this goes for the whole game. Nintendo tried not to hold your hand playing Zelda, and you could fall off of these things, and then all of a sudden you're not playing in the dungeon anymore. You're back in the desert or wherever. Like, they didn't have railings, and it felt really precarious as you're walking around the outside of the beast and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
I remember that happening with, I want to say the water one, but I'm pretty sure the desert one would just give you the typical fade to black and, slap on the wrist.
That one they would, because it's like way up in the air.
Yeah.
because you
Well,
have to
you can
knock
just
it down to
teleport
get on
back
it.
to it, so it doesn't even seem
Right.
necessary.
Yeah, that's true.
And same with the bird. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure I didn't jump off of the
Well, you're gonna
bird.
die if you fall off the bird.
Yeah, well. No, because you can use your sail like right before you hit the ground and survive any fall.
Yeah, that's true. I have to wonder I would think that would wrench Link's shoulders out of their socket,
A little
but
bit, yep.
He's the chosen one. Don't ask. I also like the boss battles. They were hard. I died a lot. So
Yes, me too.
the
Especially the
blights,
last two.
they were good fights.
Simeon, this game is non-linear. Last two doesn't mean anything to us.
Oh yeah, I guess not. Well, it does because they did. The boss battles are scaled.
Are
So
they?
the first two, at least for me, were a little bit easier. I started with the Zora,
Mm-hmm.
and that one was relatively easy. And then I did the flying people. I can't. What are their names?
Dorito,
The Rito, yeah.
The Fleetos, the Flightos.
The Fritos,
the
Yeah.
Cheetos.
the Doritos.
The Boyd people.
Why do all snacks sound the same?
Anyway, because they're all made by Mexican. Ito is Spanish for little. At the end of the
Oh,
word.
wow.
So anyway,
I understand now.
then I went to the lizard thing in the Goron place, and then the Gerudo. So
Wow, you are really good with names.
yeah, the lizard thing, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's actually the order I did them all in.
I think
So-
it worked for me, but the
Sir, when you
pirate
claim
dude,
that they are scaled, I need a source, sir.
they got to be scaled because the first one was a cinch, and then the last two were the biggest pains, unless they're just that way.
Well, I did advise you to go to them in difficulty order. So
Let me take a look at this. I'm going to mute myself and look it up.
all right, I want to talk about my last point here about dungeons, which is I think one of the reasons they might not have hit home so much as past entries in the series did is, like this entire game was open world, you kind of had an open progression through the dungeons, and I don't think that was as satisfying as normal Dungeons of Zelda, where you have to do things in order and get small keys to open up other rooms. And when you're progressing in a dungeon in a other Zelda game, you really know when you are doing the right thing and when you're stuck.
Yeah.
These dungeons felt a little bit like, I don't know where to start, or
I don't want to go into too much detail about this because I'm actually planning on writing an article basically about what you're talking about. But I do find it interesting that linear has kind of become a dirty word in game design nowadays. And, I don't think linear games are bad. I think that you can have a much more handcrafted, guided experience. It's just,
No, I totally
sometimes
agree
it
with
gets
you.
suffocating.
I really like knowing where to go in a game, and that's why I wasn't sure if I was even really going to like this, because Breath of the Wild was actually my first open world game, so I just knew that in other games I'd play, like Metroid game, for example, if I could go through a door on the left and a door on the right, I didn't really like that decision. I just want to know where should I go first, and I don't necessarily want to do trial and error. But for some reason, I was not bothered by the openness of this game. I did enjoy it.
I think it really helps too that with the side stuff, they don't exactly tell you where to go. But if you want to continue with the main story, they're like, here are the 4 divine beasts. Here's the places you need to go to get to them. Otherwise, have at it.
Right.
So, I mean, if you want to be doing something, it points you to like that direct place.
That's actually a great segue into quest design. I actually really do like the fact that they tell you who gave you the quest, which I think is the more important thing to know because oftentimes tracking down one NPC is really painful, especially since none of them stand out. But I really do like the fact that they just give you a vague direction, and you kind of have to figure out for yourself because it makes you feel smart.
I think the only NPC that really stood out to me was Cass. Other than that, they're all... that's only because he shows up so much.
Yeah, that's because he's a bird who can play an accordion with feathers.
What about the Shakalaka tree dude?
Oh yeah, the Maraca dude.
Yep.
Him,
Okay.
him and
He's
Cass.
memorable. But I wish I didn't have to watch his animation every single time. Like,
You
I
can
know you
skip
can
it.
skip it. You
Oh,
can
okay.
skip it, but it hardly skips any part of it.
That's true. You don't want to watch his little dance? You don't think it's
No.
cute?
I wish I could skip more of the Great Fairy.
You have to
Ugh.
do it far too many times. Yeah, Great Fairy. Oh, yeah. My wife like walked past when the Great Fairy was just speaking, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Simeon, and your findings, sir.
Well, it seems like it's probably not scaled, and that's just the difficulty level. But I was not able to find a definitive answer. I mean, the normal enemies do scale. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I did find that out. That the regular enemies, they do scale. So as you get better, they get better.
Scales as well.
Right.
Okay.
So, but no proof that the bosses scale at any forms. Apparently, Thunderblight is just a big old pain, and Fireblight is more difficult than the other two, but not as difficult as Thunderblight.
That's very interesting. If it's a known fact that the regular enemies scale, then I wouldn't be surprised at all if it did it for the bosses too. Huh.
Who knows?
All right.
Yeah, I do. Just going back to the bosses real quick, I was kind of bummed that all the bosses were basically the same creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that just goes back to the theming problem.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's enemy variety, I think, in this game. It's one of those things where you have Bokoblins, Moblins, and Lizalfo, but they all kind of behave. They're kind of like the same enemy, but with different special abilities. Except Bokoblins, because they're lame. They don't get special abilities.
No, they could have had a lot more enemies. Yeah.
What I'm really ticked about is that they didn't have Dark Nuts.
Right.
Yeah, they could have implemented those.
Yeah, they'd be like they'd be sort of like the Lionels. You just
like
find
mini
them.
Boss. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can just see it in my head. They're like just standing there in the field, unflinching, with their sword, like gripping their swords and having it planted in the ground. And then when you show up, they just sort of turn to look at you and pull the sword out of the ground slowly. And I want it.
I have hope for the DLC, the Cave of Trials. Wait, the name changed, didn't it? Trial of the Sword.
Mm-hmm.
I have hope that those enemies you fight will not all be the same ones that were out throughout the main campaign. I think they'll add a couple, a new mini boss, maybe a new boss at the end or something like that.
It would have been really great to have them just out in the middle of a field, and they could have had a really great throwback to the original game where some of them aren't actually mini bosses, but you don't know which ones are actual guys and which ones are not. Yeah. So you could walk past and it's just a statue, and then you walk past another one and he's like,
kind of like with the Guardians.
Oh, like Armos. Armos, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that would have been.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there should have been Armos in that game.
Because like if when you were walking through Hyrule Castle and there's just like the random suits of armor, just like one of them could have all of a sudden just started animating and start attacking you.
That would have been so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, does anyone have an impression they'd like to share on visuals?
Beautiful.
I loved it.
Cross-hatching. How did they do that? Okay, a little context. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a programmer, and so I've actually done graphics programming. It's that'll twist your brain in a pretzel if you're not careful. If you are careful, it'll probably more likely pound it flat. Anyway, but so I want to know what shader. That's a shader is a short program you write to tell the program how to process the colors.
Yeah.
Or in this case, the shading. I want to know what what their shaders look like to get the that cross-hatching effect to show up sometimes, but not others.
Right. I could tell you, but I don't know. So, but yeah, I love the graphics, and I was really impressed how little there was pop-in, and they reduced the pop-in to non-important things, so it was never like a mountain popped in or anything like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so the landscape was pretty well done, though I'd argue there is a pop-in. It's just really it's not.
You have to pay attention to it to see it.
Well, yeah, but pay attention to Link's feet.
Ooh, okay.
So if you're really, this is filtering, not popping, but if you pay attention, like the texture next to his feet and the texture like a meter or two in front of your character are one's really blurry and the other is much cleaner looking.
Well, I never noticed.
Again, I'm looking at this game and trying to go, how did they do that? Because I'm just I'm geeky like that, and so other things I noticed, some of the textures were really low resolution when they shouldn't have been, like big metal boxes with like the swirly pattern on them that you would find in like shrines and stuff. Those, I'm pretty sure, are more or less just cubes. And so like the bolts and the swirly pattern is what's known as it's a normal map. And basically what it is it's just it's a two-dimensional image that
looks 3D.
Yeah, it's a two-dimensional
like it has
that looks
embossing.
Yeah, it looks like it has embossing, and it just basically what it says tells the game is that okay, at this point, if there's this particular color, then deflect the light in this direction.
Holy cow!
Huh.
So,
someday there will be a game engine that everybody can use, and it will solve clipping, and then I'll be happy because. I mean, it's especially noticeable in games like this where you can switch out your helmet and your weapons and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're stabbing yourself in the head with a giant sword.
You have a big hat and a big sword, and it's just clipping galore. So
yeah,
it's weird. Clipping usually doesn't bother me that much, unless it's just something like really ugly where you're obviously putting like a bandolier on a character that the bandolier was not fitted for, and stuff like that.
Sword's just like going through the ground.
There's a Force Unleashed cutscene on the Wii version where your main character gets to kiss someone, but you can dress up your main character in like helmets and everything. So anyway, that was a good time for clipping.
Or like in the Spider-Man game for the GameCube where you could have big head mode and all the characters would have big heads, and at the end when Spider-Man is kissing Mary Jane, just their heads are like, oh
my gosh, yeah, that's great.
I need to see
but that's a cheat code. That doesn't.
Yeah,
that's meant to break the game.
All I have to say is, if you're looking out into the distance, it looks beautiful, but if you are like going under a tree or something, don't look too hard because the angles might stab your eyes.
I took a lot of pictures because I'd be like running through the fields and there would be a sunset and like what do you call that when the sun makes like a flare?
Flare?
Yeah, I took a lot of screenshots, so that was fun. What do you guys think of the music? Subdued piano stuff in this game. First time piano was used in Zelda. I liked it a lot.
Well, I mean, first time piano was used by itself.
Yeah, first time piano really took the lead and was the central instrument. Yeah.
Well, I would say even then, like the Midna's Lament from Twilight Princess, the game you said was your favorite. Was heavily based on the piano. So
wait, but in you guys remember the Dev Diary stuff, right?
Yeah,
right. But
I thought they talked about this being like kind of the piano's debut.
Well, this is the first time they used an actual piano. And the other one, I'm pretty sure it was just like a synth fake orchestra.
Yeah, Twilight Princess, because it was... I don't think there was enough space on the GameCube discs to have actual recorded live music, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so it was MIDI files then. All right.
And that was the one track, too. This is like every single track has like massive amounts of piano in it.
I like it when the Guardian theme starts.
Yeah.
Yep. You just like look around like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I like most of the music in this game, but I do admit I'm not a huge fan of the atmospheric pieces.
Okay.
I think they're kind of they don't really even when you can only tell them apart when you're paying attention.
Yeah, it's really not meant to grab your attention.
And so it kind of, while I can understand that for Breath of the Wild, and a lot of my criticism for Breath of the Wild is stuff where I think it was perfectly fine to do in Breath of the Wild, but I wouldn't want to see it in another game.
Totally. Like, largely the Zelda main theme being absent.
Yeah, that for instance. Well, just I would have liked. What I really would have liked is to have like maybe a main theme, and that each region of Hyrule had like a variation of it.
Yeah, that would be
That
cool.
would have been cool. I guess another thing I could say about the music is a lot of it just sounded very not Zelda-y.
Yeah,
Like,
see
especially
that.
the town themes, like Hiteno, I don't know how it's pronounced. Village?
Hiteno.
Hiteno Village.
That's how I say it, but I know it's wrong.
It's a fine piece. I like it, but when I heard it, it's like this sounds more like generic JRPG town music than Zelda town music.
I think the best music are like the four regions music, because they'll intertwine stuff from like previous Zelda games into it. Like if you notice in the Rito one, it has like heavy Dragon Roost Island influences.
Dragon Roost. Mm-hmm.
All right, this will be the last spoiler warning for this episode. We're going to start talking about story now.
We didn't even talk about weapons.
Wait, where was that? I totally missed it. Yeah, we can definitely touch on weapons. That's a big part of the game. And just the fact that weapons broke a lot. I know that was a controversial mechanic. I mean, it's definitely there to force players into a variety. And I did enjoy a variety of weapons. I always tried to hold on to like something to crush stones with. And I preferred like double or single-handed swords that I could use a shield at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep, same. I think the main thing that they should have had is the durability of weapons kind of goes up, just like how the enemies get stronger. Your durability of weapons should also increase as you progress through the game. Because at that point, you kind of have your certain weapon type that you gravitate towards, and then you don't have to keep switching weapons all the time.
Right. And just chucking them across Hyrule, right? I mean,
yep.
Yeah. It's so cathartic.
It is.
Honestly, the breakable weapons was something that I was okay with at first, and I heard arguments for it. Of course, the arguments against it, you don't really have to read those because you can kind of figure out what they are. Eventually, I got to the point where near the end of the game, I was like, you know what? I don't like the breakable weapons anymore because, I had as many weapons as I could carry, and I prefer the claymores. Just that paying homage to my Scottish heritage, I guess. The thing I realized is that weapons weren't exciting. I mean, when I found a new type of weapon that, it's like, I want to know what this is. What's it called and how much attack power and stuff it has. But for the most part, I think it kind of, after a while, it's like, yeah, it's another weapon. I don't care. It's just going to break. Even with like the champion's weapons, it's like, yeah, I don't care. It's just going to break.
Yep, that's the thing. It doesn't let you get attached.
Yeah, I think literally the what I used, the scimitar you get from the Gerudo, I think I literally used that to break rocks. It's just like, well, I mean, I'd much rather use my claymores, so I don't care if this is your ancestral weapon and it's sacred to your people. I want that rock salt.
I do wonder if they should have included like a breakage meter for each weapon. I know they're trying to keep the user interface pretty stripped down. You would have liked that, Simeon?
Yeah, I would have liked that.
It would have been very helpful.
They were really trying to give you as little information as possible. Like, all you got is the strength of each weapon, not the speed or anything like that, or durability, unless it had like a durability up attribute or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, they just tried to keep it very simple, so I can appreciate that. I am looking forward to unlocking the true power of the Master Sword so that it will never break, and then that kind of just puts the worry of weapons away.
Yep, you'll never use anything else.
Wait, you can get the Master Sword so it doesn't break?
in the DLC.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You like that, Glenn?
No, because I want a two-handed sword. It'd actually be kind of cool if you could like set the Master Sword to be one-handed or two-handed. Because Master Sword, I mean, traditionally, if you look at it, it's a big sword.
It's
to
a
be
big
wielding
thing,
one-handed.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Where's the Master Claymore? That's not very inclusive, guys. Come on. We ready to get into story? Who paid attention to the story?
Eh.
You know, I think the story it does a good job of hooking you at the beginning. You know, it's like, oh, you know, I have this mystery of who I am, how I got there, and all that. Yeah, after the Great Plateau, I think the general overarching plot. Oh yeah, should we give the spoiler warning?
Yep. Here, I'll
Okay.
press the sound effect. Whew, whew, whew. Spoilers.
Oh man, I'm so glad we can afford those really great sound effects with all that Patreon money coming in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We do it for you, kids.
I know my money. I feel good knowing my money is going towards such sound investments.
Yes.
Sound
investments. Oh.
Oh my goodness.
I wish that was intentional. I have to warn you, I don't make puns often, but I do have a fondness for them. So
they're great.
No, I'm very selective in how I do it, though.
That was almost a meme. I don't make puns often, but when I do, and then you have to say something really clever there. So I'll get back to you on that one.
Anyway, but the overarching plot loses focus basically. Well, and that's kind of the idea. But I went straight to Kakariko Village. As straight to Kakariko Village as you can, because you know you're kind of ducking around enemy camps and the Guardians a lot, and so. What I would have done if I were a developer. So I understand why they didn't do this, but it loses focus because they give you 2 or 3 major quests when you get there, and you kind of get in this state of decision paralysis, you know, the left door or the right door thing that Scott was talking about earlier. You know, I wasn't really sure, do I want to go regain my memories, or do I want to go after the Divine Beasts, or some combination of the two?
Yep.
So... Again, I understand why they did it this way, but I think if I was in charge, I would have had it so that the Divine Beasts were one half of the game, and then you'd have, after you get all of those, it's like, now it's time to get your memories back.
Yeah, I would have appreciated that. The whole memory thing, when I saw that there's like 12 pictures of places I had to revisit, and I looked at the size of my map, I was like, no way am I ever going to find these. So I just pretty much ignored it. And I enjoyed the cutscenes when they appeared, when I would beat a Divine Beast or something like that.
There's a really easy way to find them. You have to go to Stables, and you'll find the painter dude, and he'll take a look at it, and it's like, oh yeah, I know where that place is, and then he'll point you off. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You have to do the fairy quest for him first, but...
Okay, I can do that.
The guy with the easel set up in the stables, he'll tell you basically directly where they are.
That's much better. Okay.
Okay,
all
but
right.
I honestly, again, I think that's kind of a flawed design. The quest ultimately it's find this place, and I think it would have been a lot more rewarding to the player instead of bumming around looking, hey, do you know where this is? I think it would have been a lot more rewarding if it's like, okay, you've traveled all over Hyrule, you've gone and done the Divine Beast thing. Now it's time for you to see how much of Hyrule you remember.
Yeah, totally. What do you think about the story, Simeon?
I don't know. I liked it, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just boring seeing the same old thing rehashed over and over and over again.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
But Ganon was wispy this time.
Yeah, and then I was about to do a spoiler thing. Can you do the spoiler sound effect again?
No, we gave the final one for the episode.
Oh, sorry. It just wasn't. I don't know. I don't play these games too much for the story because there were very few Legend of Zelda games that actually branched off and had something worth following, honestly. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I don't play Zelda for the story. There are very few games that I actually do play for the story, and this is not one of them.
I agree. Being a Nintendo fan has not really brought me up in the way of story appreciation in games.
Mm-mm.
All right, so we have covered most of the aspects of Zelda, and we talked about how this entry in the series is a big departure. The developers tried to, what was their catchphrase? Upend the tea table? No, that's Miyamoto.
Challenge convention, I think, is how they refer to it.
Yes. Yep. And it was received really well. This game is selling crazy big numbers. So what's next for the series? You think that they will make... Because I kind of feel like they invested so much into this open world that I would not be surprised at all to see like a Majora's Mask take using this same world.
I hope so.
I'd actually be really interested in that because the thing about Majora's Mask is it had a much smaller scope. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, just because of my own personality and stuff, I kind of prefer things that tend to be very focused.
Yeah.
Instead of very broad. So I like to see how they could take what they have here and apply it to a much tighter, more focused experience.
I don't know if they'll use another game in this, but I definitely think that's why they said that there's going to be DLC. I don't know, maybe after this one they'll announce even more DLC if this one goes over well, because then, I mean, you don't need to create a whole new game when you're just using something in the same exact space that's already on the cartridge.
Yeah. No, there could absolutely be more DLC, and I'm really interested in what the winter stuff will be, because it's going to come out right around holiday time, and it's going to actually have storyline content and another dungeon.
And let's hope that dungeon is huge.
I do hope that they go the sequel route, because we have so little of that in the Zelda series. It's, bouncing around this, trying something new, and that's great, and it's produced some great results. I mean, obviously with this one, but I'm hoping, like with Scott, since it was such a big success and they did put so much into it, that they will just straight up make a sequel.
Or take Link out, drag and drop him off the game onto the desktop, and drag and drop Samus. There you go.
For real.
Because
no more after waiting for the loading of rooms because you're trying to get away from something and the door won't open.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're like, Adam, can I use cryosis? No, it's not
Adam,
safe.
can I climb this mountain? No.
No, you have to let go.
Adam is dead, okay? He is dead and gone, except, the computer Adam. Spoilers for
Spoilers.
Metroid.
Also, what if it's a prequel?
Yeah. Speaking of which, where is
I want to know what happens next in Metroid. Why are we talking about this?
All right, next podcast, everybody. So, where is this game in the timeline? Is there any idea about that?
Ask Game Over, Jesse.
Yeah, I have no idea.
That would be his deal. But in the timeline, I'm pretty sure we're like thousands of years after any game in the series.
That's what made the most sense to me, especially since they have so many references to other games that it would kind of have to take place after everything.
Mm-hmm. And technology for the first time. I mean, iPads and all that. Yep. iPads. That's right. Yes. So, having said everything that we've said, is this the all-time best Zelda ever of all time?
I will say this. I do think it is the best Zelda so far. It's not my favorite. I think I'd still go with Majora's Mask, but I do believe that all things considered, it is the best Zelda game. I just prefer Majora's Mask because it's unique and the time mechanic is fun and the characters are great. It's just completely different from this game. I think overall, gameplay-wise especially, this one takes the cake.
So you're really crossing your fingers for The Legend of Zelda Majora's Breath.
Yes.
All right.
You could As you could say, I am holding my breath for that.
Oh, gotta love the puns, Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is the best one, yes. It takes the open world mechanic that you've seen from all the other great open world games, but it's done it the best that I've ever seen as well. And I'm a huge fan of open world games. So yeah, I would definitely say this one takes the cake. It sucked me in more than any other Zelda has, just because every time you start it up, you can have a completely new experience, where the other one, it's kind of like a point A to point B sort of situation unless you're side questing. This one, you can just jump into the world and just walk around if you want to.
Absolutely. Glenn.
Not even in my top 3.
What?
Oh, honestly,
Bro,
this
what?
is a B+ game in my opinion. Which,
Oh,
bear in mind, that's a good score. Okay,
that's
everyone.
true,
I
but-
believe everyone should play this, especially if you own a Wii U or Switch. So I'm not saying it's bad. I did like it, but honestly, yeah, it just did not resonate with me. I think it. Again, I'm very objective based. I like checking things off a list.
What would you say is the in your top 3?
You know, I would say probably still Link Between Worlds. I would put Wind Waker, which is also fairly open ended, but
Mm-hmm.
Wind Waker in there. And I don't know. After that, it's kind of a toss up between like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword, because both of those are great games, but very flawed in some respects.
Have you guys? I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I don't think any of us has mentioned Ocarina of Time in this entire podcast.
The heck with Ocarina of Time. Ocarina is overhyped. I mean, good game, but
If it's the first 3D Zelda you've played, most of the time you'll say, like, yeah, it's amazing, but
Right.
if you didn't, then you don't have that sort of nostalgia factor, so it's not going to rank nearly as high for you.
but
Truth.
yeah, honestly, what I'm personally interested, I think Skyward Sword, I didn't like a lot of its designs decisions. I think they needed to be made though. What I want to see is what they do next, because if you've ever studied philosophy, I went to a liberal arts school, so I had to. And it's actually interesting to me, at least. But there's a concept of a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis, where the thesis is the established status quo, the antithesis is something that comes to challenge it, to upset the balance or whatever. And then the synthesis is where you take the best of both concepts and blend them together into a better concept. I think Breath of the Wild is the antithesis. I want to see the synthesis, because I think they went a little bit too far in some respects. Like, I miss items. I miss that sense of, because really the only way you get better in this game is your weapons and clothing and your how many hearts you have or stamina. You don't get. I mean I think the only major mobility upgrade you get in the game is the Rivali's or Falco or whoever, his Gale.
Falcos.
Yeah, I'm surprised I even remember to call him Rivali, because really, it's Falco.
Yep.
Lombardi's
That was
Gale.
a super fun power up. That's
That's
like
the best
reason.
power up in the game, and I think I love it so much because it's a classic mobility power up.
Yeah, I wanted mobility stuff. I wanted to get like dashing shoes.
Yeah, and well, that would be kind of tricky with the whole equipment thing. And there are like snowshoes and sand boots and stuff, but
yeah. All right.
I liked it. I feel like none of my time was wasted playing it, but I'm not sure I'd go back to this game if it weren't for the DLC, of course.
Well, I do appreciate the counterpoints that you've brought to this show.
Well, I am a natural-born contrarian, so expect more of that.
Good. I can't wait. Well, from my perspective, I do think that this game deserves all of the 10 out of 10 scores that it received, because it's so fresh, and thoughtful, and new and exciting, and challenging and beautiful. But I also can see how it deserves a lot of the criticisms that it gets too. It is my new personal favorite, and I think that I think that it's the best game in the series right now, but I think that, like you said, Glenn, they probably overcorrected in a lot of the areas that they broke the conventions, and just because I think that this game can stand up as a 10 out of 10 doesn't mean that there are things to be missed from other entries in the Zelda series. And I think that they will iron that out and balance it more in the future, where we'll get an open world game with lots of dungeons and items too. So I think that they can really follow this up well, and I'm looking forward to that. And I don't see Breath of the Wild staying on the top forever, but I'm sure glad that they learned a lot of lessons from the things that they implemented in this game and were willing to try new things.
Yeah, I think this is a game that needed to be made, even if I don't agree with every decision they made.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the Zelda formula from now on. You know?
Yeah, just so long as they reincorporate the stuff that worked in past Zelda games. The way I would describe it is either the Zelda series is going to be amazing from now on if they they sort of go, okay, now what can we reintroduce without messing up all the hard work we put into challenging those conventions and not just slip back into the rut we were before. But if they just get into a new rut where everything is just Breath of the Wild 2, 3, and 4, I may not be a Zelda fan anymore. Because it was good once, but I'm not sure I could do this again.
This game, I think, had to happen just so the stale formula had to be broken, and I'm glad that they changed so much, because now they can take what works and get rid of what doesn't work.
Right.
Just get all the new stuff out of the way at once, and then just kind of mash it into one Mega Zelda game after this.
Yeah.
Megazord. Sorry.
Yes.
Zelord.
Yeah, so the next game confirmed Megazords in Breath of the Wild sequel.
Saban's The Legend of Zelda.
Coming to a theater near you?
A Saban Saban or however you pronounce it, yes. For us Englishers, Saban.
Sadly, this wonderful discussion of Breath of the Wild is coming to a close. However, you can head right on over to twobuttoncrew.com/blog. We have a number of entries about Zelda, starting with Glen's that he wrote back towards the end of March, Link's Log, a narrative Breath of the Wild Let's Play. You can kind of read the first opening hour of Breath of the Wild from Link's perspective. And Glenn, you did a really good job imbuing that with a lot of humor and stuff. Even commenting on the Zelda tropes as you went. It was really good.
Yeah, well, if you like that, that's actually based off of a YouTube series called Freeman's Mind. It's based on it's basically that for the Half-Life series. Though I should caution our listeners that there is some strong language and stuff in there, so.
Use discretion. Not on our blog, though.
Not on our
discretion
blog.
needed. Ryan, you wrote, How Should Nintendo Follow Up Breath of the Wild? So you've got that article there. And then Matt, who wasn't able to make this podcast because of, I don't know, marriage reasons, he published on May 28th, Breath of the Wild Nostalgia. And that's another great one to check out. Glenn has an entry coming up in July critiquing Breath of the Wild's progression. So if you've enjoyed his negativity, then there's more of that on the way.
Yep.
So that's
there was a lot of stuff I didn't get to complain about. So in this discussion, so
yes,
perfect.
Well, there's no one going to be able to cut you off on your blog post. So. Again, that's at twobuttoncrew.com/blog, and you spell it out TWO. Button Crew. All right, Simeon, where can people find you online?
Where can they find us online or me online?
You online.
I don't want people stalking me online, but you can find Two Button Crew on all your social media outlets. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course on YouTube. Also
and
on Snapchat.
MySpace.
Yes,
Not
and MySpace for you. I think I don't even know what MySpace is anymore. I think it's like a music thing now. I don't think it's even
it's
like actual social media.
Well, we sing songs. Ryan, where can people find you online?
I am at Ryan Van Leer on Twitter.
Great.
I'm pretty sure I have other stuff too, but I think I'm Ryan Van Leer on Instagram too. I hardly post on there, so
did you want to talk about streams at all?
Oh, sure. So you can just follow us at our regular old 2-Button Crew YouTube page to watch us on our YouTube gaming live streams. We are also on Twitch, and we will soon be on Mixer as well. I'm setting that up.
Ooh.
And Glenn.
What?
What?
I don't do social media. I don't have a Twitter or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
so
you can find Glenn at 2buttoncrew.com/blog.
Mm-hmm.
Many entries written by him, even more edited to perfection by him. And we are 2-Button Crew. And if you are just meeting our acquaintance right now, we have a daily YouTube show. That's our main gig. And it's at youtube.com/2buttoncrew, kind of like a Good Mythical Morning style thing where Simeon and I discuss or play a game, challenge each other to competitions, something like that, something different every single Monday through Friday. Saturday we have streams, Sundays we have blogs. So don't wait around to hear from us till our next podcast episode. Come visit us on our various channels and social media as well. If you would like to support this podcast and help us create more episodes for you, you can go to patreon.com/2buttoncrew. So wherever you decide to go, we hope to see you soon online. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. All right. This has been really fun. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thanks again for outlining this episode. And thank you to each of you for coming online for this awesome conversation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Sure thing. I've always wanted to do a podcast.
Now you're in.